Welcome Pilar Vera and invite her over to the podium. She's the chair of the International Association of Aircraft Accident Victims Association. Please, Pilar, tell us your story. Thank you. Good afternoon. The topic I will address today has not been mentioned in the summit, but I trust that my words will raise some thinking, and I hope you will discuss it in the future. Doing away with prejudice and changing stereotypes is the title of this panel, and it summarizes what I do, what I represent, and my guiding principles. Reaching your hearts will not be as difficult as reaching your minds. Reaching the possibilities that each and every one of us has to promote the changes required for assistance to victims of air accidents and their families to occupy their well-deserved place in aviation, but also for gender equality to be the rule and not the exception. I will discuss two things here. First, the value of the work done in assisting victims of air accidents and their families. On August 20th, 2008, an aircraft crashed on track 36L. It was a flight where 154 people died and only 18 survived, 15 adults, 3 children. At this very hotel, we stood waiting for our loved ones to be identified for more than 17 days. I confess I had not set foot in these facilities since then. But this second summit has brought me here once more to make the least kind face of civil aviation visible, to help more women take up the leadership in this aviation industry seen from a different angle. I come from the island of Gran Canaria, located nearly 2,000 kilometers from Madrid. Aircraft and airplanes and commercial flights are essential to us. In the past few years, I have seen how victims and their families are only relevant when accidents happen. And when the media floodlight goes off, they're immediately forgotten. Victims' associations die of boredom and exhaustion. If existing is heroic, surviving is a miracle. The terrible accidents during the past decade across the world made me persevere and continue to insist. Crying was not an option. We had to get governments to respond to their citizens affected by an air tragedy, and it could only be done through ICAO and their member states and organizations. The initial reasons for my arrival to OACI in 2010 was Circular 205 published by the General Secretariat of ICAO, which was not known because of the tragedy of flight JK522 was not followed. And I was surprised to know that the only thing that had been done for victims since the creation of ICAO in Chicago in 1944 was that memo, which was substituted by document 9998 approved by the ICAO on March 1st, 2013. At that council, I attended, invited by the president at the time, and for the first time in history, a victim attended a formal session of the ICAO Council, and in September that same year, I attended the General Assembly of ICAO that actually backed the document. It was included in audits, first as a recommendation and then as a standard. In 2015, I founded the International Federation of Victims and Families and Relatives to Aircraft Accident Victims to guarantee the existence of the association and my succession. After all these years, for the first time in its history, ICAO acknowledged our organization in 2016 as the only international organization invited to their event. We had reached the heart of international civil aviation to uphold the challenge of surviving without resources but with determination in a business that sustains the economy of states. There is not enough time to point out all the milestones we have met during all these years. But go to the website of the Association of Victims of Flight JK 522 and the International Association of Victims, where you can find all the information on everything that has been done in Spain and European and international efforts. Second point, gender equality in the assistance to victims and their families. This quote, Baroness, by Winston Churchill, summarizes my work during the past 15 years. If you're going through hell, keep going. Despite the lack of understanding and double discrimination as a woman and as a victim, and despite the walls of silence that still surround us, I always kept going. Stopping meant abandoning, and that was an option I could not afford. Gender equality does not exist, not where we work. Commitment is a must, and my commitment comes from the heart. Leading an activity that is different from what you've always done, for which there were no precedents, is difficult when your heart and soul are broken and you work for the memory of your loved ones. The lessons learned are used to alleviate the suffering of others and bring more security to both users and managers. Believe me, the weight is unbearable and extremely painful. Before I became involved in this struggle, my professional career took place in state administration, private banking, public banking. I've held great responsibilities from a very early age. I've lived historical events in my country. I have a degree in law, but I never worked as a lawyer. So I knew what lay ahead, but I didn't have the time to think about it before I dove in. And thousands of times I have wondered, why do I keep pressing on despite all the failures, all the defeats in search for truth and justice after the tragedy of Flight JK 522? If you find it difficult to deal with your day-to-day work as women, try to imagine, even for a moment, the difficulties I had to surmount. A world of men where there were no women who would dare lead a just cause opposed to the interests of states and organizations alike. The ruling culture was preventing an unpredictable path to be opened. Everything I do is a first time. And when I meet a roadblock, I go back to square one and pick a different road. I know where I wanted to get. I know where I want to get. And despite all the obstacles, I know I will reach my destination. This is the path I have chosen, to break down prejudice in the specialized world of aviation. That takes generosity, talent, leadership, training, resilience, strategy, education, and patience to go beyond the limit. But it also takes visibility. Visibility is of the utmost importance. It's almost the most important factor in the kind of work I'm doing. Promoting new conduct models is complicated, but not impossible. People move organizations, not the other way around. It is our duty to improve organizations, because together, men and women, we go further. Attitude is a basic element in my life, and without attitude, I wouldn't be standing here today. I sincerely believe that anything is possible except bringing innocents back to life when they died in aircraft tragedies due to the inefficiency of their systems. The change is slow, yet unstoppable. For instance, who benefits from what we do in the International Federation of Victims? Only society at large, particularly professionals and aircraft users, who will probably never hear about us. And if they ever come to meet us, it will be because they'll need us. That's how we have grouped up around the Federation victims and associations from all 5 continents. I am convinced that merit must be the path to a work position, not gender. We are reinstated in our commitment to facilitate the path for future generations and open paths for them, because only that way will men and women grow stronger. Nobody envies my position. I am aware of it. There are no competitors struggling for my position. I have no salary and no resources to press on. As a matter of fact, I pay to do this. I do not pretend to be a role model. I'm here to make you think that there are people out there, and we have seen a few examples in this past couple of days. There are people out there who believe in the value of what we do, regardless the resources or the hostility or the invisibility we're subjected to, or how much it costs. Gender equality has been present in powerful organizations for years. I dream that assistance to victims and their relatives will be considered in the aviation industry and will find support in the industry and in governments. Baroness, please do not forget to tell your aviation ambassadors that we are here. We're the families of those victims. We exist. It is important for us. Relay my words to them. I'm asking your ambassadors not to forget those who suffer after air tragedies. And to close, I would say the first step would be including the existence and assistance to victims in SCR policies. It's an inevitable step. It will happen sooner or later. Last, most of you have arrived in Madrid by plane. From the bottom of my heart, I wish you a safe return home. But if it shouldn't, unfortunately, be so, think how you would like your families to be treated. The International Federation of Victims is an umbrella under which you can take refuge and be certain that you will be treated with dignity, respect, and empathy. If I have not urged you to think that what I do is worthwhile, I will think that at least I touched your hearts. I will close by remembering all the passengers who have passed as victims of aircraft tragedies. Thank you.